Hey everyone, here's a quick update from us from Montana. We've both been slightly under the weather.
And still are.
And still are. Steve started it, by the way. I didn't do anything.
I did.
I just lost the battle and I've got it now. So we're definitely taking it slower. We are mooch docking with friends and we are planning our backpacking excursion. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to sit down and do a review of what living in Maximus has been like for us over the last, 5 weeks? No.
5 weeks, yeah.
2 months? For a while.
Yeah.
It's gone well, but it's not been perfect. We picked a few features and capabilities of this rig to review with you and let you know what's been working well and what hasn't. For me, my top picks are really tied to our experience in using the old Lance camper.
And me too. You know, we decided to build this camper, I started off with the Lance camper, and its purpose was to function as a test bed for a lot of the systems that I wanted to bring onto this camper. So this looks kind of an update on how that transition and how the designs have done.
So the features we're going to review is the water system, the refrigerator, the hatches, and then the power system transition. The water system, let's start with that. The water system Steve designed is a very robust setup, especially for an RV. It contains a few water saving devices such as mixing valves and hot water diverters. And the RO system provides us with drinking water on demand and using just the freshwater tank as our water source. No more lugging additional jugs, having to stop every 4 or 5 days at Walmart to fill up some water just for drinking.
We used to have 3 separate 3-gallon jugs, which we would go fill at Walmart and had sitting on the counter with a pump in them. So we had to secure them every time we moved. We had to swap them every time one was empty. And of course, we had to refill them regularly, which was not convenient. And so now with the tap on the counter, it's just always there, and it works just perfectly, like it should.
And it's really good water. We use the diverter valve to return cooled water in the hot water line back to the tank. That way, when we're ready to actually let the shower water go, we get hot water right off the bat. No more cold water spray in your face, having to jump around the shower, avoiding the cold water. It actually works really, really well.
Yeah, it seems that the hot water system, the diverter is so close to the shower head that literally once you get done turning the diverter on, you don't get more than a half a second of cool water before you are right at temperature. And with the thermostatic mixing valve, when you get water, it is at the right temperature immediately, and it stays that way.
Yeah. Not only are we saving a little bit of water by doing that, by not wasting the cold water going down the drain, but it's just a lot more comfortable. And speaking of the shower, I was a little dubious of where we put the shower. The shower ended up as part of our entryway, and I kept envisioning that we'd have everything being wet. We'd have to spend a lot of time cleaning up. It would never be dry enough. That's where Cooper sleeps, so what we're going to do with him at night? Well, none of that happened. Everything is very fast. It's easy to wipe down. It dries really quick, and we can relocate Cooper within minutes after we're both done showering and cleaning up. So it works really, really well. The plus side of it is our entryway with a duckboard, and under that is a drain pan. So we can come in from the rain all wet. We can shed our wet gear and our shoes and leave it in the entryway. If it's dirty and muddy from dirt that we've tramped in, we can wash it right away with the shower. So it works really well in that regard as well.
And one of the things I liked about it being large enough to be an entryway also meant it was large enough for me to reach my knees, because in the old Lance I couldn't bend over in the shower literally at all. So if my knees were dirty from wearing shorts, there was not much solution for me. Actually, I would oftentimes shut the shower off, open the curtain, and wash my knees, and then get back in and rinse, and that was not convenient. So now it's plenty big, and it works really, really well for taking a Hollywood shower.
Hollywood shower.
Yeah, Hollywood
Who
shower is
takes
one of those
those?
ones you don't worry about how much hot water you're using. You're the first one in the shower. You use all the hot water you want, and then the second person just fends for themselves.
Oh, yeah. While all is still not completely perfect with this water system, we do have a couple of issues. One of them is the hot water tank has a temperature gauge. This is actually quite unusual for most RVs. You don't know how hot your water is in there, but it gives us an idea. If we've turned the water heater power on, it's heated up the water should be at temp.
We like to only heat up one tank a day, and so oftentimes if we heat up for lunch for washing dishes, we'd like to know if it's warm enough to showering at night, or sometimes we do have to boost the heat again, but sometimes it's not. It's an energy saving method to keep us from heating water that we don't need to heat.
And the second item is we are still running around with an intermittent leak in the wet bay. Steve believes it's behind the heat exchanger in the back, which will require disassembly of the wet bay to actually locate and fix. But it is a very pesky leak. It keeps coming and going.
Yeah, it was there for several weeks on our first trip this season. It was not there for the several weeks of our trip today, but it's here now. And I don't really want to take things apart on the road because I don't want to break anything and sideline us for a water system. So it'll wait till we get home.
Okay, my second feature that I wanted to review is the hatches. These are the hatches that Steve designed into the unit. There's one on the rear and one over the bunk. We call it the roof hatch. They both provide great airflow, especially when you can open them at the same time. The roof hatch is actually just cool. With the right temps, we've fallen asleep staring at the stars through the roof hatch. How cool is that? Unfortunately, if it is rainy or especially windy and rainy, we do have to close the roof hatch all the way. We can't leave it cracked open. But it is very refreshing, especially in the summer, to leave that hatch cracked open enough to have some fresh air ventilation overnight while we are sleeping.
It's also kind of nice after it's been closed all night. When you wake up in the morning, you just open it up a little bit, and all of a sudden you get nice bright sunlight, nice fresh air, and you can sit there and think about getting up.
Yeah, he does that a lot. The back hatch is actually usable almost any day that the temperatures are comfortable, of course. You don't want it open when it's super cold. And even when it rains, we've left it open when it's raining, as long as it's not too windy and blowing anything into the camper. They've worked really well. On both these hatches, we actually have screens. The screens have done fairly well as far as preventing bugs coming in. But unfortunately, because of the way they are installed with multiple snaps, there is the opportunity, and we did experience that recently, where some big flying creatures would land on the screen and then just waddle over and find enough of a gap to come into the camper. So fly swatters are still a really good friend to have around. Even in that case. But all in all...
Yeah, it's a 95% solution. The 5% fly swatter will take care of, and we've got a plan to improve the 95 to 98.
Yeah. The last feature that I wanted to talk about that I really enjoy in this new rig is the residential 11.4 cubic refrigerator. We had a main criteria when swapping out refrigerators compared to what we used the Lance. In the Lance, it was an old absorption fridge.
It was a 6 cubic foot absorption fridge, right?
We knew we obviously wanted more space, but we also wanted more freezer space. And this particular unit has 3.4 cubic foot of freezer space, much more than even the DC refrigerators that were out in the market that we were looking at.
And this has 3 drawers in the freezer, so when you open the door, nothing falls out. You can open the door and you can pack each one of these drawers completely full, and there's no problem at all with having a freezer that's just packed because it's in 3 drawers.
And even though it's a big refrigerator, it's a residential refrigerator, it's an AC refrigerator, our Blomberg refrigerator is a high efficiency unit that consumes less power than the DC refrigerators that we looked on the market.
Then a smaller 10 cubic foot DC refrigerator.
This particular refrigerator consumes only 750 watt hours per day. And the smaller DC refrigerators that we looked at were in the 10 cubic foot range, and they were consuming over 1,000 watt hours per day of power. So that's the 3 main features that I really appreciate about this rig, and they have worked fairly well with a couple exceptions that we are still working on improving. And then Steve is the power man.
Yeah, so the 3 things I want to talk about are 3 things that we transferred over from the Lance camper. We had most of this power system in the Lands camper. We obviously didn't have the residential fridge there to consume power. We had a propane water heater. Now we use an electric water heater. So the power balance and the use of these systems is substantially different. So again, to start off with, when we first moved into this system, because we had a residential fridge, we needed a small inverter. So I have an 800 watt inverter to power the refrigerator, and we have 4 different places within the camper where we have power outlets running off that inverter, and it's very convenient to be able to plug in a computer or a phone or a thing, and we use that all the time and have power on all the time. And so the other challenge that I ran into was, in my Lands camper, I originally had 890 watt panels on top of the camper, which was just too much weight, so I rapidly dropped to 490 watt panels, and that worked quite well. And so when I went to build this, because I could locate my vents where I wanted them, I could actually manage to squeeze 5 panels on my roof here. And so I was really looking forward to having a high charge performance out of my solar panels. And that has not happened. And what I have discovered is, so when I went to put the panels on this, I took 1 panel off of the Lance, and I had the other 4 that had only been on the Lance for 6 months and stacked on in the shop for 2 years. And when I put those on there, I discovered that one of the panels was almost completely dead, and the other 3 are performing at maybe 15 or 20% capacity. And the 1 panel that I took off the Lance is working great. So I am really suffering for solar charge. Again, I know just the small amount I'm getting right now still helps a lot. It actually we actually lose ground on a daily basis with it, but that's because we're using a lot of power in here to cook with induction cooktop and stuff. When I have all of them, it's going to be great, and that won't be till I get home and file a claim with the manufacturer. But
future shop talk video.
Yeah, there will be some more discussion about that, because I really do want to find out why they failed. So the other thing that I did was I swapped a charge controller out. The charge controller is integrated into my BMS. I already suspect my BMS is bad, and so I thought the BMS charge controller had simply failed. That's why I was getting such poor charge. And so when I bought a new charge controller and put it in, that's when I discovered the panels were actually weak and not underperforming. So that was a bit of a problem. So the final system that I had it's part of my vehicle. It's a second alternator that I use to charge my batteries. I never used it very much when I had the Lance, because I didn't use that much power. In this particular camper, I use a lot of power, and because I wasn't getting that power from my solar charge controller, I was now having to get it from my alternator. And so I initially wanted to upgrade my 120 amp alternator to a 220 amp alternator, so I could actually get about 100 amps of continuous duty charging, and I have used that numerous times because of the failures of my solar panel to perform, and I will tell you that my alternator does exceedingly well. And I say it's 100 amps, and those of you with 12 volt systems at 100 amps, this is a 24 volt, actually it's a 28 volt system. When I say 100 amps, it's 280 watts, it's 2800 watts. It's as much as most of your AC generators can put out running flat out. So if we're somewhere and we've used power, I get in the truck, we start it up, we start driving, I turn it on. Within a couple of hours, and we have a massive battery, we are back where we need to be for the next night. I don't need a full charge, but just moving a little bit gives me all I need. It's achieving what I expect it to achieve in the state that it's in, which is not very good.
It's the state it's in that wasn't expected.
Yeah, exactly. So still lots of work, but we understand the problems and we can deal with it.
Yep. Anything else?
No, honey. Just the most excellent wife.
God. Here he goes again.
Yeah, do you need more blooper reel material?
Anyways, if you're watching this video, and that means we've hopefully gotten better and have hit the trail, but we will take some video and photos while we're out on the trail and be able to share some of that with you too. It's a beautiful area. I've done a short hike out there before, but this is the first time even Steve's going back as far as we're going to go for backpacking. We're going to stay out for 4 nights, so super excited. Cooper's not so excited, but he doesn't know it yet because he won't come with us. He's too old. We will be leaving him in good hands. So with that, thanks everyone for watching. Hope you get a chance to join us again. If you like this video, click the thumbs up.
And subscribe. We really appreciate having a group of people who are like-minded, and we like sharing what we're doing, and we like inspiring you to do the same. And if there's any way that we can help you in any of your endeavors, please don't hesitate to let us know.
Absolutely. Send Steve all the good Greek questions. He loves it.